When a narcissistic woman begins to sense that the relationship is no longer serving her sense of power or validation, the first thing she does is not leave, it's withdraw. But this withdrawal isn't obvious at first. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, like the slow dimming of a light. The warmth that once drew you in starts to fade. The laughter, the interest, the emotional presence all begin to feel rehearsed or absent. Conversations that once felt alive now feel mechanical, and you can sense something hollow behind her words. Psychologically, this is the stage where she begins to detach from you, not because she's heartbroken, but because she's preparing to reclaim control. Narcissism thrives on dominance and emotional leverage. So before she ends things, she ensures you are already destabilized, confused, doubting, and searching for the version of her that no longer exists. This emotional withdrawal is not a reaction to pain. It's a calculated move to desensitize herself and to test how much control she still holds over your emotions. You might notice that her affection becomes conditional. Acts of kindness feel transactional. She offers crumbs of connection, just enough to keep you hooked, while steadily starving you of genuine intimacy. In this stage, she studies your responses carefully, almost clinically, to gauge how much influence she still has. What's important to understand is that this silence, this emotional vacuum, is not weakness, it's strategy. By withdrawing, she reclaims the upper hand, ensuring that when she finally leaves, she does so without emotional cost to herself. And here's the truth most overlook. When someone detaches to manipulate rather than to heal, they've already left long before the goodbye. Recognizing that truth early isn't just clarity, it's your liberation. Once emotional withdrawal has created distance, the next stage unfolds almost inevitably: blame shifting and gaslighting. This is where reality begins to bend. The narcissistic woman no longer seeks connection, she seeks justification. She starts rewriting the narrative of the relationship, transforming her own coldness into your supposed failure. Every disagreement becomes evidence of your flaws. Every emotional reaction becomes proof that you're too sensitive or too controlling. It's not conflict she's after. It's control over perception. From a psychological standpoint, this is projection in its purest form. She transfers her own guilt, her own insecurity onto you, forcing you to carry the emotional weight she refuses to face. In Jungian terms, she disowns her shadow, those darker, unacknowledged parts of herself, and places them squarely on your shoulders. You become the embodiment of everything she cannot accept in herself. This is why the arguments never resolve. They are not meant to. Their purpose is to confuse you, to make you doubt your own memory, your own sense of truth. Over time, you begin to question your reality. You replay conversations in your mind, wondering if you misunderstood, if maybe she's right. That's the design of gaslighting. It erodes your inner compass until her version of reality replaces your own. And once she controls the narrative, she controls you. This stage isn't just manipulation. It's psychological warfare disguised as love. It leaves you defending yourself against accusations that don't exist, fighting for clarity in a fog she deliberately created. But here lies your moment of awakening. The truth does not need to argue. The moment you stop explaining yourself to distortion, you begin to see through it. And in that quiet clarity, you reclaim the one thing she cannot manipulate, your reality. As the emotional distance widens and your sense of stability begins to erode, another subtle but significant shift takes place. She starts idealizing someone else. This doesn't always mean she's already in another relationship, though that's often the case. It begins in the mind first, with comparison. Suddenly, you're being measured against an imagined figure, someone more attentive, more ambitious, more aligned with who she claims to be becoming. What she's really doing is projecting a fantasy onto another person, just as she once did with you. In the beginning, you were her ideal. You carried the weight of her admiration, her validation, her dreams, but once that illusion cracks, she doesn't look inward. She looks outward. The narcissistic psyche cannot bear emptiness, so it must quickly attach to a new source of admiration. It's not love she's seeking, but supply, the emotional energy that reaffirms her self-importance. This is why she often appears radiant or euphoric in this phase. She's feeding on the anticipation of new validation, escaping the emotional accountability of the old. From a psychological perspective, this phase represents the full cycle of idealization and devaluation, a pattern that repeats endlessly because it's not rooted in genuine intimacy, but in control and fantasy. The new person, or the idea of them, becomes a mirror that reflects back her imagined perfection. For you, this stage is often the most painful because it feels like replacement. But in truth, she's not replacing anew, she's replacing the reflection she once saw in you. The tragedy is that no one can sustain that illusion forever. And here's the lesson. When someone must constantly seek new mirrors to see their worth, it's not your absence they fear, it's their own reflection. Recognizing that truth is the beginning of emotional freedom. Once she has emotionally withdrawn and begun idealizing someone else, the relationship enters its most destructive phase, the stage of devaluation. This is where affection turns into criticism, admiration into contempt. The woman who once praised your strengths now highlights your flaws. She mocks what she once admired, belittles what she once cherished. And the cruelty of this shift lies in its intentionality. She wants you to feel small, uncertain, and undeserving, because that emotional imbalance restores her sense of superiority. Psychologically, devaluation serves a purpose. It allows her to justify leaving without guilt. Convincing herself that you are the problem, she avoids the discomfort of self-reflection. The narcissistic ego cannot tolerate imperfection within itself, so it projects that imperfection outward. What was once love becomes a mirror she shatters to protect her illusion of control. In this phase, even your attempts to make things right are twisted into evidence of your inadequacy. Your empathy becomes weakness, your patience becomes proof of your dependence. What's fascinating from a Jungian view is how this stage reveals the shadow of narcissism, the inability to integrate one's own darkness. She must destroy what reminds her of her own fragility. And so, in dismantling your worth, she shields herself from the pain of her own emptiness. It's in this phase that many people lose themselves completely, trying to regain a connection that no longer exists. But trying to convince someone who thrives on superiority to see your value is like arguing with a mirror that only reflects itself. The lesson here is stark but liberating. When someone must diminish you to feel whole, their cruelty isn't a measure of your worth. It's the echo of their own brokenness. The moment you understand that, you stop bleeding for their validation. After the storm of devaluation comes something even more unsettling. Not rage, not confrontation, but indifference. It's the emotional switch-off, and it's one of the most chilling moments in any relationship with a narcissistic woman. One day, you realize she no longer reacts. Your words no longer reach her. The tension, the conflict, even your pain, none of it moves her anymore. It's as if she's turned off a light inside herself and left you standing in the dark, trying to understand what changed. What's happening here is not healing or emotional maturity. It's detachment used as a weapon. Narcissistic indifference is not peace. It's control through absence. By showing no emotion, she communicates that you no longer have power over her, even though the silence itself becomes a tool of dominance. This coldness is psychological armor. It allows her to exit the relationship without confronting the chaos she created. It's an emotional strategy, not an ending born of understanding. From a deeper psychological view, this detachment reveals the core of narcissism, the fear of vulnerability. To feel anything deeply would mean to face the reality of loss, guilt, or consequence. So she doesn't feel, she performs detachment to protect her fragile ego. It's not that she doesn't care, it's that caring would mean acknowledging her own humanity, and that's something she spent her life avoiding. For you, this phase often feels like death without closure. But it's also the moment where your clarity begins to surface. When you finally see that her indifference isn't strength, it's emptiness, you stop chasing what was never real. And the truth you must carry forward is this: indifference is not the opposite of love. It's the absence of self-awareness. Once you recognize that, you stop seeking warmth from someone made of ice. When the final act arrives, it rarely comes with honesty or introspection. It comes with performance. The narcissistic woman's exit is not a quiet departure, it's a carefully managed production. She controls the story, ensuring that when she walks away, she appears blameless, even heroic. This is the stage of image management, where she rewrites the narrative of the relationship to protect her ego and preserve her reputation. You are no longer a person in her story. You are a plot device, a symbol of what went wrong. To outsiders, she may present herself as the wounded one, misunderstood and mistreated. She curates sympathy through selective truth, telling only what maintains her victimhood while concealing her cruelty. This is not deceit for its own sake. It's psychological preservation. Narcissism cannot coexist with accountability. It must bend reality to survive. So she constructs a version of events that keeps her image intact, even if it means distorting yours. What makes this phase particularly painful is that it feels unjust. You find yourself defending against lies, fighting for your integrity while she moves on effortlessly, feeding on the validation of her new audience. Yet this is the illusion. Her new beginning is not growth, it's repetition. The same cycle, the same patterns, just with new characters. From a Jungian perspective, this is the ultimate projection. The inability to face one's shadow leads to the endless need for reinvention. She must keep creating stories where she is always right, because truth would demand self-confrontation, and that is her deepest fear. So let her rewrite the story if she must. Your healing begins the moment you stop trying to edit her fiction. In the end, the truth doesn't need to defend itself. It only needs to be lived. Live it, and you win without saying a word.